Welcome to Regional Solutions, the ESCAP podcast where we explore how countries across Asia and the Pacific are working together to tackle today's biggest challenges. I'm Veronika Verner. Road safety is one of those challenges that touches all of us, whether as drivers, passengers, or pedestrians. Yet every 44 seconds, someone in Asia and the Pacific loses their life on the road. Behind every statistics is a family, a community, and a story cut short. The impact is profound, not only in terms of life loss, but also in the emotional and financial strain that crashes bring. The good news is that most of these tragedies are preventable. Simple measures like wearing a helmet or seatbelts, slowing down a little, or making smarter decisions like not drinking and driving can save countless lives. To talk about how we can turn this vision into reality, we are joined today by Thanattaporn, Rasamit, Chief of ESCAP's Sustainable Transport Section, and Nneka Henry, Head of the UN Road Safety Fund. Nneka, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? What first inspired you to work on road safety?
Hello, good day. So my name is Nneka Henry. I've been heading the UN Road Safety Fund Secretariat for the last 4 years. It's my absolute pleasure to be working in this capacity because road safety is one of those development challenges that really affect every single person on this planet. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Every one of us, we use the road. So through this work, I'm able to work with partners like ESCAP to figure out how we can support countries to improve safety for us all.
And Thanattaporn, how did you come to work in the UN, particularly on sustainable transport?
I have been with the UN for quite a while, actually nearly 20 years. I started with transport as my educational background is on transport. During my years in transport division at ESCAP, I've been working on various fields, and one that is actually quite capture my attention and my interest is the one on road safety because it is a topic that really touch everyone's life.
So one of the questions we ask on every episode of our podcast is, what solutions are you working on for the region?
The UN Road Safety Fund, it's a global fund. We're working in all the regions, but in the ESCAP region, it's really about how do we bring together partners with their different expertise, whether it's on road infrastructure or whether you have expertise on trauma care or whether it's expertise on helmet standards. We bring those expertise together and we combine that with high impact approaches because there are many ways that we can cut the cake, but we want to ensure that we do the work on road safety in a way that is effective based on proven methodologies. And so we're combining the high impact approaches with the partner expertise, and we put some seed funding together with that. And with that mix, that's how we're supporting governments in the ESCAP region to improve road safety. So if we consider our work, for example, in Bangladesh, how do we improve there? It was really about the trauma care for persons that are part of a road crash. So we were working with the Ministry of Health to put together protocols, also establishing a 24-hour rescue line for the road crash victims.
Ultimately, the aim that we want to achieve is the safe system approach. So that has been sort of like the underlying principle that ESCAP is working on in various aspects to ensure that there is a safe system for all the road users to be out there. Even though a mistake is made, then their life is still safe and secure and the injury is minimum. For the Asia Pacific region, the unique characteristic about this region is that we have quite a big proportion of motorized two-wheelers fatalities and injuries, particularly in Southeast Asia and Southwest Asia sub-region. So if you ask me to pick one of the work that we are doing as an example, among many examples that we have, motorcyclist safety is one of that we've been focusing on.
Why do you think the human cost of unsafe roads often doesn't get the attention it deserves?
To some extent, it does get the attention because when we do see the headlines of the road crashes, it pulls at our heartstrings to see that there's so many lives that are lost or so many livelihoods that have been taken away from people who are probably left alive but seriously injured. The reason that it may feel like it's not seen, it's hidden, is because I think for the most part, people think that these crashes are inevitable. They think that this is just the cost of doing business, the cost of living in today's world. But nothing could be farther from the truth. It really is a preventable road safety, public safety crisis. It is preventable. Simple measures like, first of all, having laws on the speed that you should be driving at, and also enforcing that makes a tremendous difference between whether a life is lost or not, the injury is serious or not. Because as my colleague has mentioned, the safe system approach is about not expecting that we will never have a crash, but also understanding that if we do have a crash, how do we minimize and mitigate that? And so even something as basic as a law on speed and enforcing that would make a world of difference. So I think it's really about people thinking that this is not something that they can do anything about and that it's not preventable. And I think that's the crux of why people tend to look away from something that they feel that they have no control over and that they're powerless about. And I think nothing could be further from the truth when it comes to improving road safety.
Global community is working toward reaching the safe system approach. But simple action that we can actually do in our daily life to save our life as well as other life is really a make decision to minimize the risk factor that you expose yourself to. One of is speed. You have a choice, right? We all have a choice to pick what kind of speed we drive our vehicle. In terms of the speed, every 1% increase in the average speed, just 1%. That produced already 4% increase in the risk of deadly crash. So that's quite significant. When we're talking about a specific area like school zone, hospital zone, usually the target speed is 30 km per hour. So why is it 30 km per hour? Because slowing the car from, let's say, 50 km per hour to 30 km per hour, that literally meaning the difference between life and death. So this is something that's actually our own choice, and not just for ourselves, but we also have the responsibility to protect others, road users who are sharing the road with us as well. Apart from that, interesting figures on helmet usage is that if we wear quality helmet, if we wear it appropriately, it can actually reduce the risk of death by more than 83%. That's huge, right? We have that choice in our hands. An example of Vietnam, when they first launched their helmet use law, the mandatory law, actually after 3 months of that enforcement, there is already like the hospital was reporting 60% drop of head injuries. That could be something very significant and very easy. Seatbelt wearing as well, child restraint as well. That's something that we get to ask ourselves on the daily basis. We want to do that or not. And the simple action that we take the safe approach for ourselves.
So governments have pledged to make roads safer through global, regional, national action plans. Could you please explain to our listeners what do these plans actually mean in practice?
There is a system that is proven to keep us safe on the roads, but there are many countries that lack the knowledge, the expertise, the resources to properly adopt and implement this system that keeps us safe. Many of the countries, including in the Asia-Pacific region, I would say that they're on a journey to implement the system, but on the way, there are many gaps in the path. That's where the UN comes in. That's where the UN Road Safety Fund and partners like ESCAP come in, where we support them. So what they have done on their side is to say, we understand that we want to achieve the global commitment. The ultimate one is that by 2030, we have the number of road deaths in our countries. From where we are until that path, we see that there are many gaps that we need to fill. We need laws on this, or we need to improve enforcement here, or we need to look at the trauma care in the hospital system, or we need to look at how we do enforcement by the police officers, or we need to see how we improve the roads so that they are safer to drive on and that they are intuitive as well. Because we need to put things in, for example, crosswalks, calming measures, meaning speed bumps. All of these gaps countries are identifying, sometimes at a local government level, sometimes at a national level, sometimes at a regional level. For example, at a regional level, we can talk about how do we collect and analyze data on road crashes to make better choices as countries and as a region. These kinds of very practical gaps that countries are identifying at these different levels of government. And then that is what we're talking about, plans and commitments and strategies. This is practically what it means.
Building on what was already said, could you maybe share a story or an example of where road safety initiatives have really worked and what differences they made for communities?
One of the projects that was just recently concluded is the one in Lao PDR. Before the project started, Lao PDR already have the licensing system in place. However, it may be still lacking in terms of strong testing standard. That resulted in many drivers were on the road really without the right skill or the awareness of the safety. This project came in Actually, from the request of the Ministry of Public Work and Transport of the LPDR themselves, they actually identified this problem and they reach out to us. We reach out to the UNRSM and then we implement this project together. The objective is really to improve the system to ensure the licensing become more regular, safer, and more qualified driver on the road. This is a simple example that improvement can really come from the very fundamental issue like driving licensing, because you would never not train a soldier when they go on the field, right? You would never not train the astronaut when they go on space. So this is the same thing. We want to make sure that the driver who go on the road carrying their weapon as the car or motorcycle and all that, they are being properly tested, being qualified, and being aware of the road safety aspect. This project really contributed in the way, maybe not immediately, but continuously contributing as the testing becomes standard, as the licensing system ensure qualified driver, then would make the roads safer and safer.
It's also important to talk about the fact that the work that we do on road safety, it's not really binary. With road safety, when we talk about seeing impact and results, it really does take decades. We've seen this in countries that are doing really well in terms of reducing road deaths, particularly in Europe, for example, where it's the region with the lowest road death rate. What I want to say here is already a success that we see a lot of commitment and interest coming from Asia Pacific countries to want to work on this issue. I take up Thailand as an example, where through different parts of the government, not only Ministry of Transport, but we're also talking head of state, Ministry of Public Health, really flagging to say that they are serious about their commitment to improve safety for the road users, but that they need support. It's one thing to ask for the support, but they're also putting their own resources on the table to make this happen. Right now, we are at the start of putting together a master plan for motorcycle safety in Thailand to cover the whole country. How do we improve the whole issue of motorcycle safety in the country of Thailand? And this is very much a partnership that we're doing together with ESCAP, that it doesn't just take money, but it really does take political commitment and follow through action. So that's something that we're seeing very strongly represented in the Asia Pacific region.
So looking to the future, what gives you hope that by 2030 we could see far fewer families losing loved ones on the roads?
We in the middle of the second decade on road safety. There was a first decade before 2010 to 2020. I've been involved in this road safety work since the beginning of the decade. So I really see the increased interest and increased commitment on the topic back from the very early decade. I don't think people even consider this an issue. We do not call it road crash. We call it road accident. By using the word accident, that already indicates that this is something not preventable. This is something happening by chance. This is something out of control. But gradually, this mentality has been changed. We see a lot of countries that already identify this as an issue, reach out to ESCAP, reach out to UNRSF, wanting to solve the issue. So this is something that is promising about 2030, because as we see the commitment, as we see the awareness of the issue, as we see all the effort by regional and global community that go into it, we also see high-level commitment more and more on this. I think this is the hope, because as we've been discussing, road crashes is preventable, but it's just a matter of we put attention and we put an effort to prevent it or not. And now what we are seeing is the increasing level of attention and effort to the issue.
Thank you to each of you for sharing these incredible stories about your work. It has been very insightful to hear from your perspectives and expertise. Before we wrap up, what would you like our listeners to take away from today's conversation?
We've been mentioning it from the very beginning that road crashes is preventable and it is our choice. It is actually our daily choice to make ourselves safe and to make every other people on the road safe as well.
For me, I think the key thing to take away is that to improve road safety and to make sure that we see a lot more of our family and loved ones coming back home safely from the roads, it's a shared responsibility. Something I didn't speak a lot about here is that to get to where we need to get to by 2030, private sector is a critical partner in the discussion, not only in terms of financing and funding, but also really their expertise and their use of technology can help to leapfrog us into a place of unmanageable safety. It's not just the private sector. We need also everyday road users to play their part. Governments certainly. It's their ultimate responsibility. They're accountable to us for improving the road safety systems. But the UN agencies, the multilateral development banks, we really do all have a role to play. Civil society is incredibly important in this agenda on improving road safety. So I think all of us should walk away thinking and reflecting, how do we contribute to a safer road for us all? Because we really do each have a role to play.
That brings us to the end of our episode. A big thank you to our guests, Thanattaporn, Rasamit, and Nneka Henry, for sharing their insights and experiences. We've heard today that road safety isn't just about policies or infrastructure. It's about protecting lives and building safer communities for everyone. The solutions are within reach, but they depend on action from governments, communities, and each of us as road users. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and be a part of a solution for our region.